Hey guys, so somebody asked me a question in the comments a few days ago, I think, prior to me deleting my YouTube Studio app, and I'm in my car. So now I can't go back to read the exact question, but I'm pretty sure it was referencing how I had kind of allowed my ultimate romantic fulfillment to become, how I had allowed that intention to materialize, or how that materialized. And this question was basically how would you approach the dating scene? How do you decide who stays and who goes? And so this is kind of a weird question for me to answer because, to be honest, I think the number of people that get to the point where they truly do not feel like they need to have a romantic relationship, I think the number of people who go from feeling like they desperately need one to not feeling like they need one at all is pretty small. So like, there are a lot of people that never feel like they need a relationship. But often those people have other issues going on. So this is kind of a weird one for me to answer because, I could answer this question from how would I approach it if I were single again? How did I approach it before? But it's more like, I'm trying to think, how would I approach this if I were somebody who wasn't like quite there, but who obviously has opened their mind to the idea that the need for a relationship or a partner is largely based on self-concept. I mean, a lot of people don't even ever, a lot of people are just out there doing their thing. They're not analyzing why they're doing things. They're not trying to figure out why things are going wrong. They're blaming random chance. They're thinking that they just haven't met the right person, or that the odds are stacked against them, or it's too, So there's kind of like I don't know, there's a bunch of different ways to approach this. So I'll just answer it from those perspectives. The way I approached it in 2020 was that I was so sick of thinking about relationships that I didn't even want to think about it. And I kind of already had one happening. I had a relationship with somebody who was just a friend. We couldn't get our shit together to get into a relationship. There are a lot of videos on this channel. Maybe I ended up with an unexpected afternoon to myself today. I thought I was going to be out of town. Maybe I'll make a playlist about that guy. Because it was a very interesting experience from start to finish. So I was kind of distracted by a relationship in my periphery that I, at the time thought, okay, I think this might be the one, this might be the person that I'm supposed to be with. But that relationship had been created from a prior state of being for me. And the shift that I had at the end of 2019 was so major. It basically overwrote everything in my entire life. And that relationship that was happening, that was around, was interesting because it was something that had been created just like 6 months prior to that, and that survived for like 6 months after that. So it was it was like a new relationship that didn't have like a ton of set ideas and expectations about it. So it shifted and reflected really rapidly what was going on with me. So it was really interesting. I'll see if I can get all those videos together in a playlist. If I do, I will link them below. This channel only had about 1,000 subscribers by the time that relationship was over. And immediately, actually before that, I met Matt, my fiance. So I don't know. The last time I was single, from my current perspective, I didn't even have a chance to approach the dating pool, the dating experience, because I already had somebody around, and then I immediately had somebody else. They overlapped each other. So if I found myself single again, I'm pretty certain about this. I would stay single for a long time. I would squeeze every drop of juice out of being single that I possibly could. There are things that you just cannot do when you have somebody else to consider. There are, it's just a different... If I were single again, I don't think I would want to be single for the rest of my life. But the first thing I would do when I became single was to stay single for a while. Okay, so that's just me. So who cares? You're interested in you. and where you are and what you can do with where you are. So I will see if I can say anything meaningful about that for anyone who is trying to date right now, who doesn't feel like they're, quite to that point. What I would say, first of all, is this. Before you do anything having to do with dating, I would sit down with this is what I would do. I would sit down with a notebook and a pen, and I would I would encapsulate myself, good and bad. I would say, this is what I think I need to have to offer in order to be good enough, to be in the right relationship. I'd do that, and I would just see, where do I feel like I am majorly lacking here? And where am I, really hitting the mark here? And because the places that you feel like you're lacking, those are going to be the things that create bad things in your relationships for you with other people. In my experience, any place where you don't feel like you're measuring up is where you are going to accept things in a relationship that aren't what you want. Because if you think you're only half of the package, you're either going to get together with somebody who has like some glaring flaws that you probably shouldn't accept. You're either going to be in that relationship and that's not probably going to last. It's probably not going to be good. It could be really bad. Or you're going to be half of what you think the package needs to be. You're going to be half of what you think you need to be. And you're still going to be looking for 100% from another person. And that's going to create a whole bunch of other problems. You're just going to get dumped left and right. You're going to really like people. You're going to like a guy or a girl who doesn't like you back. And then they're going to become your SP, and you're going to try to like make them like you instead of like fixing the stuff about yourself. So the first thing I would do is get really, 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 really brutally honest with yourself about who you are, what you have to offer, and how much that matches up with what you think it should be. And then I would just do, I have had so much relationship pain in this life that seriously, the idea of just like, the idea of being single doesn't bother me. I would never go back to prior to 2019 when I figured so many huge things out about myself. Relationship pain really sucks because it's usually only a little bit about the other person. It's about you and what you feel you're lacking and what you feel, what illusion you're believing about what you need in the outside world, what you're going to get from the external. When you haven't figured out what it means that you have it all within you, like when you don't have that, when you don't see that you have that, when you don't feel that you have all of that already, life is just, I don't know, it's a scary place to be, an empty place to be. It's a big illusion. So I'd get really real about you and who you are, who you think you need to be, and what of those things you think you need to be are something you should actually try to become, and what of those things are things that you picked up somewhere that you don't actually have to be, ways that you think you need to change that you don't actually need to change. That's a tall order, and it's not like something you can just go write it down and figure it out tonight and then tomorrow everything's perfect. This is what I'm saying, is just to get more real about where you're coming from. People have like big laundry lists of things they're looking for from a partner. And I think those can get, sometimes those lists can get bigger as you get older and you have more failed, unhappy relationships behind you, or they can get shorter as you get more desperate and you're like, I'll take anything. What ended up happening for me after I did all of that, one mistake I made, or if it could even be considered a mistake, I guess, maybe I had to learn this the hard way. I did everything I just said. I became what I thought I needed to be. I changed into that intentionally. I was like, I'm lacking here, 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 and here. The relationship I want just doesn't match with the way I am now. It matches with me changing into this other thing. And I wasn't honest with myself about some things. You know, I thought I wanted some things. I didn't stop to think, do I really? Is this just like a compensating thing for something I feel I'm lacking? Do I feel like I need to be this certain way when I actually am this other certain way, and other people might want me to be this way, and I really, you know, it was a learning process to get to the point where I really knew who I was and what I wanted. And I didn't really have that until the beginning of 2020. And when I thought about it, you know, I stopped and I thought about it, and I was like, I really don't need somebody to be a certain person. I don't need anyone to look a certain way. I mean, I have to be physically attracted to the person, but there's not like I have one type or something. So that was just not even, no physical characteristics whatsoever were a part of what I wanted. Basically, the whole list of things I wanted were about how I wanted the relationship to be, how I wanted to feel in the relationship. And, you know, I needed so little from it in the way of anything to complete myself, or, you know, I still had some, you know, it wasn't perfect. I still had some stuff going on. You've seen this channel, maybe not. You've seen this channel for the last couple of years. I've had things I'm working out, but those weren't things that really severely interfered with having a healthy relationship for me. I just didn't need much from a relationship anymore. So it was like, what do I want? I want fun, you know, I want somebody who I can like make a home with, and just, I don't know, I don't remember what the list is now. Basically, he just kind of showed up. But so, in order, I think, to know what you really want, it really helps to know what you actually need, and what the things that you need right now, what needs are based on things that you can change, and what needs are actually needs. And, you know, what wants you have are wants to compensate for you not being what you think you should be, and what wants are, you know, genuine, I guess, coming from a good place where you're going to enjoy life and be happy. So if you're like out there dating, this stuff all starts with you, and you don't have to worry. That's the thing. Like, you don't have to worry about the other people. When you are oriented correctly, you are not attracted to gross people. You're not attracted to people where your friends are like, what are you doing with that guy? He's a total asshole. That attraction for things like that, like people that other people are just like, what are you doing? That's something for you. That's something that you haven't figured out and fixed. That's why you're attracted to that person. You know, I'm not a psychology expert, but it makes sense to me that, you know, if you have, say, a man from your past or a woman from your past with whom you wanted to have a relationship in a certain way, and they disappointed you, or they didn't, you know, you felt like it was some personal failing on your part that you weren't able to get from them what you wanted, it makes sense that you would continually attempt to right that wrong, rectify that situation by creating a new relationship with somebody and hoping for a different outcome. Hoping that this person is going to validate you by giving you that thing that you didn't get. And you pick very similar people to the people that didn't give you the thing. Like, they might seem totally different, but actually the thing about them that caused, you know, the original whatever, unfulfilled relationship, you're going to see that it's very similar between these people. Like, this person was very distant and disapproving, and so is this one, even though they're totally different from each other on paper, from the outside. Until you are able to go back to these things, you know, not necessarily go back and relive everything. I don't know. I'm not afraid of doing that, but I get some people don't want to do that. You know, until you're willing to look at the things that have caused you to be looking for the things you're looking for now, you're just going to keep doing it. You're just going to keep doing it. It's such a waste of life. I don't know. It's sad. It's such a waste of life to do that. You know, if you're just willing to like have some courage and say, I keep like getting these same relationships over and over again, or I know that I always look for this thing in a man, but this thing never really seems to play out really well in a relationship. You know, you'll just keep doing it. So what I would do if I were a woman in my 20s or 30s or older, which I am a woman older than that, what I would do if I was approaching that scene is just really try to work all my shit out, because you will automatically notice people who will work with you. You will just seemingly randomly run into people who are at that level, the same level as you, who have worked their own shit out, or who, you know, who can just, I don't know. The point is, you don't have to worry about that. I think part of the question was like, how do you decide who stays and who goes? Your attraction is going to decide who stays and who goes, because you and I both know that if you become attracted to somebody, it is beyond you. You're not just going to be like, no, I am totally all about this guy, but he's bad news, so I'm not going to do it. That like never happens. You end up just going in and playing out this scenario, and then you end up single again, or you end up in a bad relationship again where you have to dump the guy. And it's just going to keep happening. It's not happening randomly. You are picking these guys. So if you can accept that these things happen almost at like a below conscious level, your attraction has everything to do with you and your self-concept. Absolutely. Absolutely. If you have a type, you have a type for a reason. I don't know. I'm going to go blue in the face, I think, at some point. And I don't know. You won't have to worry about who stays and who goes when you're good with yourself. And what I would also do is, if you can, try to become more and more aware of the fact that you are creating everything. You are trying to get something from the scenarios you find yourself in. You're creating them for yourself. Because then if you get into a relationship with somebody and you immediately, like, you can immediately start like seeing what you're upset about or what you're not getting, or, you know, those are all about you. So anytime you get into a relationship and you're like, I don't feel adequate here, or I feel like I'm not getting this thing that I need from this relationship, you know, or just whatever scenarios come up. Like, you know, I can't believe the games people play with like calling each other or like responding to texts, like the time it takes to respond to a text, stuff like that. I have absolutely never at any point done that. And anybody who does that was just always such a bad match for me. It was such a good weed out. Like, if I went on a great date with a guy and he didn't call me for 4 days, I was just like, fuck that. You know, and if you feel bad about that, like if something like that happens, or, you know, if you find that you're taking it really personally, you feel like he wouldn't have done that or she wouldn't have done that if I were better. I mean, there's just always feedback coming to you in the form of the way you're interpreting what happens in these dating situations. So, I just, you know, I don't feel like there's a great guide for how to know like who stays and who goes. You know, I don't think that it really works that way. I think that you become attracted to who you become attracted to, and there's not much logical decision making happening. It is possible to get yourself to the point where you are only attracted to people who treat you a certain way. Early on, I became very, very turned off by people that did not seem attracted like into me. Like, I've never been somebody that chased after guys that didn't want me. If you kind of decide in your mind like that, I don't like that, that's, you know, yuck, that will just no longer be a part of your life anymore. I don't chase guys, you know, like, I don't want somebody who acts aloof, who, you know, doesn't give me the time of day and seems to be playing games. Like, that can easily become a huge turnoff. But man, it just all comes down to you and the way you feel about yourself in relation to dating. How you feel about, you know, dude, I'm sorry. There is nothing and no one to change but self. And there's no other answer. It's always the same answer. But I think especially when it comes to dating, that is the biggest mirror, the biggest reflection. That is where you will feel all the feelings so intensely. For most people, I think, some people are really oriented towards jobs, and they have the same sort of agony and angst and stuff about occupations and stuff like that. But I think really, like, for a lot of people, for most people, it's romantic relationships are just such a bitch because of what they, what they show you about how you feel about yourself. And if you're not interpreting it that way, if you're interpreting it just the surface way that most people are, what a fucking nightmare. God, I'm so glad to be out of that. The exit is available, and it does not come through another person. I had exited this before my friend in 2020 started coming on to me. Before I knew Matt existed, I was fucking done with this whole thing. I was just like, when am I gonna give a shit again? There's a video on here somewhere where I was like, my feelings about romantic relationships have changed so much that I can't even believe it. I just like, when am I gonna care? Like, am I ever gonna get anyone again? I remember saying that. And then like 2 weeks later, my friend was like, I love you. And then I met Matt like 4 months after that. So anyway, that's all I gotta say about that. And I it's always the same answer. So I don't know if there's anything in there for anyone. All I can say again is, God, it is so fucking worth it to do whatever you have to do to get to the point where you are good by yourself. It is such a glorious thing. Oh my God, it's totally worth it. I'd pay $1 million for it, maybe more. If I had more, I'd pay more. Anyway, have a great day.